I'm Trevor Benjamin, one of the designers of the Undaunted series, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the third game, Undaunted Reinforcements. Now, the first two games, Normandy and North Africa, were standalone. You could buy them and play them on their own. But Undaunted Reinforcements is an expansion for both of them. And it comes with all kinds of yummy goodness. So it has an official solo version. It has a 2 versus 2 team game. And it has 8 new scenarios, 4 for each of the two, 4 for Normandy and 4 for North Africa. And it comes with all kinds of new units as well. We've introduced some asymmetry into the way that the Germans and the Americans play in Normandy. We've added tanks into Normandy. We've added sappers and extra planes into North Africa and all kinds of other yummy goodness. So we're going to dig into a bit of the details now, and we hope you enjoy it.
So in Undaunted Normandy, we had a campaign that culminated in the key city of Mortain, and that's where the Americans were able to stop a German counterattack. But in the original Undaunted Normandy box, we weren't able to get at some of those key engagements in the city of Mortain because we didn't have tanks, we didn't have the asymmetric units. Well, now with the new additions from Reinforcements, we're going to be able to tell those stories for the first time. So it's really going to be able to extend that Normandy campaign. In North Africa, we had a campaign that lasted over 2 years, from 1940 to 1942, and moved all across Libya. Well, now with some of the new gameplay elements, we're going to be able to go back to that campaign and sprinkle in those new scenarios throughout the campaign and really get at some interesting, even more asymmetric, even more interesting scenarios that we weren't able to tell the first time. We're introducing some commando type units for the Italians. We're introducing this new concept of mines for the LRDG, and it really allows us to create those scenarios for the first time we weren't able to do before.
Those were one of the most exciting additions to North Africa, and so we knew that players were going to want to have them in Normandy as well. And Reinforcements has given us this great opportunity. But of course, we couldn't just copy exactly what we'd done in North Africa and bring it into Normandy because the two games are at such a different scale. In North Africa, you have one counter representing a single soldier, so it makes sense to have, you know, a soldier jump into the driver's seat and then leave. But when a counter represents 5 riflemen or 3 snipers, it just doesn't make any sense. So we've had to treat vehicles in a slightly different way. We've essentially zoomed out and treated them much like we treat the rest of the units in Normandy. So each side, the Germans and the Americans, get a squad of 3 tanks with a tank commander. Each of the tanks has a single counter and then a group of 3 cards which represent the crewmen in the vehicle, and that works quite well. We've also had to make sure that the tanks play well with the rest of the units. We need to make sure that everything else is still relevant. So tanks cannot scout, they cannot control, and although they can attack soldiers, they aren't nearly as good as machine gunners or snipers or any of the other units from the base game. So yeah, we hope you enjoy them.
So one of the most obvious, most significant additions in Reinforcements is adding tanks to Normandy, but that's not it. There's a lot more. So one thing we're doing is we're introducing some additional asymmetry in the infantry units in Normandy, so differentiating the Germans and the Americans, which was one of the biggest requests we had for Normandy. But you won't just be able to play with those new infantry units in the new scenarios and Reinforcements. You'll also be able to go back and replay some of the original Normandy scenarios with those new units. So it's really just refreshing a lot of the old original Normandy content. In North Africa, we're adding a lot of new units. So we've got 3 new LRDG soldiers. I'll let you hear about the specifics about what they are later. And then we're actually adding a new Italian squad, a new Italian aircraft. But probably the most interesting addition is the idea that we're adding mines now. So the LRDG has sappers, so they can place mines and defuse mines. So it's just a really interesting new wrinkle that we're adding to North Africa.
One of the biggest grumbles we've had with Undaunted is that it only supports 2 players, and so it just doesn't work in larger groups. So what we've done in Reinforcements is introduced a 2 versus 2 team game. So 2 players will take on the role of the Americans and the other 2 the Germans, or if you're playing North Africa, Then 2 players will be the LRDG, and 2 players will be the Italians. And so what we've done is for each of the new scenarios that comes in reinforcements, we essentially have 2 setups. And in one setup, you split the units in half, 1 for each of the 2 players on the side. And one of the players takes on the role of the commander, and they start with the platoon sergeant card in their deck. And they are the player who will bid for initiative against the commander of the other team, and then you'll alternate teams back and forth based on that. But don't worry, the commander role shifts throughout the game. So once you play your platoon sergeant card, you take it and you put it in the discard of the other player. So then they get to take on that role. And it works really, really well, and we're really proud with the way that this has come out. So yeah, now you can play Undaunted with 3 of your friends.